There we are. So, hello, my friend. How are you? I hope you, as always, are having an outstanding day. As always, I am Heather, and this is the Back to Me podcast. And this is one of our super amazing celebrity chats. And this is where I get to learn something new. So, I'm a bit selfish in always wanting to have celebrity chats with amazing people. And this week, Ron Finlay, Perpetual Rhythms, which I think is a pretty cool name. Like, I'm a big dance party person still, so even people consider me over the hill. So, Ron, welcome.
Thank
So
you.
nice to see you.
Likewise.
So, the first thing I always like to start with is how did you get into what you do? And part of that explains to people what you do at the same time.
Alrighty. So let me give you the full name. It's Perpetual Rhythms Entertainment Services.
Oh, see, the words are too
Primarily, it's a
small,
DJ company.
right?
Yeah. So primarily, it's a DJ company. How I got started is I was a guest at a Christmas party for the company I worked for way back in 1980. So I've been doing
That
this
was
a
just
long time.
yesterday, right?
Yeah. You know what? I can't believe it's been 41 years, but yeah. So I went to this Christmas party, and I'm a dance teacher at that point in time. So I'm there to
Like
dance
ballroom
up,
dancing?
yeah, ballroom and Latin dancing. So I've been
Well,
teaching
cool.
dancing since 1976.
Lord.
Yes. So I've got so what I have is bottom line. I go to this Christmas party. I'm ready to dance. I go up to the DJ. The floor is empty. And I say, "Have you got this song? It's in a movie." And he says, "Yeah, I got the record." He pulls out the record, puts a fingerprint on it, puts it back in the box on an angle so he can grab it real quick. And he never played the song the whole night on an empty floor.
Oh,
And I thought, you know what? I mean, I'm nobody special. I'm just a guest at a corporate party. However, you don't know who I am. I could be the CEO. What are you? So I got so upset with this guy's lack of care that 2 weeks later, I took my engineering degree in electronics and acoustics, which is handy in the DJ business.
no
I took
kidding.
my ballroom dance background and a monster collection of records and thought, I'm going to start my own DJ business because I can do better than that guy. So out of zero to hero, I went and started. I get to my first ever wedding, which was for a friend of mine's son, and I actually borrowed his mixer to play the music. So I didn't have any equipment yet. Oh, mind you, I had bought the biggest home stereo money could buy. And
Well,
I get to this wedding, and I thought, wait a minute, I don't have a clue what these people want to dance to. Never thought of that. It's one of those,
right?
oh, could have led with that one. So I go to the banquet hall and I say, can I have some paper? So they gave me a stack of paper. I ripped it all in half. I gave every table half a sheet. And I said, hey, folks, if write down whatever you want to hear for dancing, because I'm here to make sure you guys have a good time. No idea what I had opened up. No idea how we're going to make, filet mignon out of chicken scraps. So I get all these request cards coming up over dinner time, and I'm looking, oh, I got that song. I got that one. Oh, I got that one. Oh, I got that as a 45. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God. So I start playing this music. I got people writing in pen, pencil, lipstick. I think one was a blood stain. But anyway,
Oh, Lord.
so I get all these requests and I'm playing these songs and people are dancing up the storm. And I thought, you know what? This is kind of cool. This is the piece that the other guy missed.
Right?
I thought, well, okay, this is cool. So then I started getting better and better at it, and slowly over time, and here we are 40 years later. Now, that's how it started. Skip ahead around, well, shortly thereafter, I started having couples for an appointment, and it's, so, we talk about the whole wedding, because I'm really interested in the whole wedding, because what happens is I show up at 6 o'clock to play the music, and they got me stuck off in a corner somewhere. The head table's here, the cake's over there, and I'm thinking, who set this up? Because it doesn't
Right.
flow. So I thought, okay, I got to start helping them more with the planning. So then I started becoming a wedding planner. And I got certified. And then I took my engineering degree, which we're going to talk about today, and I put that into the planning process. And then, because I'm doing weddings and more people are having non-church weddings, we get to do the ceremony music now at a park or in some other location. And I'm watching these officiants, and I'm thinking, you could have made it more special than rushing their wedding to get to another one.
Oh, yeah.
And I had one bride, she was 20 minutes late for her own wedding.
What?
She was 20 minutes late. I'll tell you the whole story. She was 20 minutes late for her own wedding. And the officiant says to me, if she doesn't come around that corner in the next 2 to 3 minutes, I've got to get to another city from Brampton to Kitchener. And I'm thinking, wow. So she comes sailing around the corner like she's got all day. Now, the backstory is she and he arrived in separate Rolls Royces. They were at the banquet hall trying to put up a 20-foot backdrop for their 30-person head table, and it fell down and nearly hit the $1,000 wedding cake. This
Oh
is
my
them trying to
Lord.
do DIY to save money. So I thought, you got 2 Rolls Royces, and you're worried about saving the cost of a banquet to put up the backdrop, and you nearly blew out a $1,000 cake, and you almost didn't get married. So I
Right.
thought, okay, I'm going to become an officiant because then I can control that too. So now I'm all of those things.
You're like, I can fix that. I can fix that. I can fix that. You're the fix it guy.
Well, they'll tell you what, the way I tell my clients is the sooner I help you, the more I help you. The more I do, the better it turns out, and I can prove it. And I have
Right.
oodles of video testimonials to this. So this is where we come in and say, we're here to help couples plan a better wedding. One of the things that they tell us is the result of this is it's less stressful. That's where you and I resonated because you told me about the stress and the impact on health and well-being. And I thought, you know what? There's an audience of people, especially now with COVID kind of residing and people getting back to weddings, where that stress of planning a wedding quickly. I mean, I got inquiries this week for next week.
Wow.
I mean, that's not exactly good planning, but the point is people are finding an opening. There's a hall available. Then they literally throw this thing together like tossed salad. They need help because they will make a mistake and it could cost them a fortune.
Especially if you're going to rush. I understand people are tired of waiting and halls are probably hard to book. So if you find one, you just want to make it happen and you say,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of moving parts. Interesting that you apply your engineering degree, which is so
Well,
good.
here's why. You know, there's a neat phrase in engineering called what gets measured gets done.
Right?
Okay. So here's the thing. If you apply, I call it engineering smarts. If you look at the data, because people talk, right? People talk. Data screams.
Right.
And if you look at the data, at what people spent money on, what was the impact? And if you were to rank them or score them in some kind of way, like a survey, you will find they spend thousands of dollars on things that never even mattered. And I'll give you an example because I'm a dance teacher. I got
Right.
hired by a couple to teach them to dance for their wedding. When they got here, they said, "Oh, we didn't know you were also a DJ." Well, I am. He says, "Well, have you hired your DJ yet?" "Yeah, we're going with the guy that comes with the banquet hall." And I said, "Okay, but understand the only reason he got the booking is because the hall got the booking. And he has to give them a kickback. And they only let him do the weddings because they know they're going to get money out of it. So the only thing they're talking about here is money, not you two." "Oh, it'll be fine. They say he's a good guy, yada, yada, yada." So we get to the wedding, and I'm invited to shoot the video of their first dance
Oh, because you taught them to dance.
because I taught them the dance. They said,
Right.
"Would you be able to come and shoot?" Because we were really, sure, I'll come over. So I went to the wedding as a guest. And I went over to this DJ who claims to have 10 years experience. And the music is at full volume, red line, distorted. I can't even tell you what he's playing, but the master is turned down low. So it's not loud, it's just terrible.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's 10 years experience. Wow. And the sound system was 10 times too small for the room of 200 people.
Right.
Then he forgets or doesn't know to make 2 announcements. And it cost the bride $9,000 in the room.
What?
Well, let me finish. When the dancing starts, Mr. DJ cranks up the volume for loudness, and now it's so distorted and so loud that 150 of 200 people got up and left at 9:30. And he did not announce the centerpiece giveaway that they were supposed to take home. And $6,000 worth of glass and flowers and feathers and all this expensive stuff.
Oh, right.
And then out in the lobby behind closed doors where he didn't announce was a $3,000 late night buffet for 200 people, of which there's 50 drunks in the room and nobody outside. So she came to me at 11 o'clock when I was finishing up and she said, "You know, if I'd have known this was going to happen, I wouldn't have spent the $9,000. She said, "I have no problem with the money if they took the stuff home. And what am I going to do with it? My plane leaves at 2:15 this morning."
Right.
So inexperience was his issue, but they did not check him out. They did not vet or interview, or they didn't ask the right questions because they didn't know what they didn't know. So
And
I
it's a
look at,
lot of work to do all of the parts, right? That's why you end
well,
up hiring a wedding planner a lot of times.
well, the thing is, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And I'll give you a really funny example of just to the point of what you just said. Let me ask you, you're a woman. I'm sure you have this skill. I do not. So here's a skill that you probably have. Have you ever sewn on a button?
Of course I have.
Have you ever carved a turkey?
Not well.
Okay, but have you ever, used a knife and
I've
cut
used a
up?
knife and a
Okay, so then here's the question. Here's the question, and this is a career change for you. So I got some surprise for you. Why are you not a heart surgeon? Because all they do is cut and sew, and you just said you could do that. I'm funny. Come on.
You're hilarious.
My
'Cause
point is
I don't
this.
know what the hell to do.
No, the difference between you carving a turkey and sewing on a button and him cutting and sewing is that it makes a whole bunch difference of what he's doing. It's not about the cutting and the sewing. It's about all the stuff that you and I don't know.
Right.
So you go to an expert. You go to an expert that knows all the other stuff. And most couples do not invest the time to learn as much about each vendor category that they're almost an expert in everything. It's
Right.
easier to just Google and hope that you find the answers. Well, guess what? Not everything on Google is true. I checked it out. Okay. I checked it out.
You
And the
know, I
set,
every time I teach a class, I tell them what the made up holiday is that I Googled. So
yeah. So that to me is funny, but not funny insofar as it's stuff that people just don't put the time in to discover what it is that they really need to understand so that they have the best possible wedding experience.
well,
So,
and it's I mean, people like it's an inside joke with me. Is when and my husband, it's like, oh, it's the happiest day of your life. I like to say it's the happiest day of your life so far because you want the rest of your life to be happy too. But if you are if it doesn't turn out the way you want it, then it's not a good start to the rest of your life. Like there's the stress of figuring everything out, building up to it. If you're taking the time to try and do it while having your job in your life and doing everything, it's like a full-time job to plan a wedding. And then if the day doesn't turn out well, then besides it being a financial expense, it is stressful on that day, right?
well, that's the thing, and with that comes the pressure on the relationship, the money, and I'll tell you one other story, and then we'll get into some detail. I had a bride come to me one day, and she was having her wedding, and the way it all evolved is that she had gone out and spent a fortune. I don't know what it was, but she spent a ton of money on. Okay, I'll respectfully call it some girly thing. Okay, something she spent a ton of money on. The groom was furious. What do you spend all this money for? And he was going ballistic about how much money she spent on whatever it was.
That's not Get the Dress. Have you seen that stupid reality show?
So
Ugh.
here's what he did. He went out and rented a Ferrari for him and the best man to arrive in.
Oh my god.
Now
It's a
you got to understand
competition now?
this is a nuclear arms race, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, this is
seriously,
not how you communicate in a life. Now, you can imagine the stress of that wedding. And
right?
I could tell you stories that would just make this podcast into something that we'd have to get at 3X's. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot in 40 years. I've understood it. I've analyzed it. I've documented it. I've curated a process to plan a wedding in one day.
What?
Now, let me differentiate.
Okay.
When everybody says, "Oh, I'm planning my wedding," okay, that's fine. Have you booked a hall yet? Oh yeah, we've got this, we got this, we got this. Okay, so I'm going to ask them two questions. How many people are coming to your wedding? Well, between 100 and 150. Okay, how much is your wedding going to cost? Oh, our budget's 30,000. Okay, so here's the problem with that. You said you booked a hall, but you have no idea how many people are coming. You just told me. So how many people are coming? I don't know. 100, 150. Well, which is it? Because if you don't know how many people are coming, how do you know you booked the right hall? What if it's too big? You can't fill it. What if it's too small? You can't fit them.
But
Now what are you going to do?
you can't have the number until you know where you're gonna be, can't you?
Well,
Can you?
this is the chicken and egg problem. This is
Right.
where when I re-engineered wedding planning, we do it completely different,
Oh,
completely from everything out there. Now, the other question I ask them is, how much is it going to cost? And they say, well, my budget's 30,000 or whatever the number is. Well, here's the problem with that. If you don't know how many people are coming, You don't know how many people are coming for dinner. You don't know what the dinner cost. You don't know how many centerpieces. You don't know how many invitations, how many stamps. If you don't know that number, you can't tell me how much it's going to cost. I don't care what your budget is. That's not what I asked you. What I asked you is how many people are coming. And when they cannot answer those questions correctly, and it's not to, not to pick on them, but it proves they need my help.
I can hear some women now having heart palpitations.
Well, you know what? There's help on the way, and that's why I'm here and thankful to be here. I want them to understand that budget has nothing to do with it. And here's why. There was a big survey done in the US by a guy who's a pretty world famous speaker on the subject. Nearly 100% of couples go 30 to 40% over budget.
Seriously.
Now, a $20,000 wedding is now $26,000 to $28,000. A $40,000 wedding is now pushing mid-50s. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for a wedding, for one day to have a party.
Well, it is, but here's the problem. It isn't that. If you had 40, but it's 55, you're going to spend the next 2 years coming up with the other 15.
Right.
You're trying to pay off your wedding, pay off the credit cards, make your payments on your lease or your whatever, and you've got a baby. You want to have stress and health problems and fights and who knows? Hey, there's a funny expression, but I don't like using it, but I'm going to use it anyway. Love is grand. Divorce is 50 grand.
Oh my.
And so we want
to kind of make the point.
It makes the point, okay? It makes the point that you want to have the wedding be a launch point. Now, you said something really interesting a minute ago. I tell my couples, you're going to have one wedding and you're going to have 50 anniversaries.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be reminded of the wedding that coulda, shoulda, woulda, but I didn't?
Right.
And that brings up something really interesting that I call the 3 R's.
Reading, writing, and arithmetic?
Well, okay, I've heard that one too, but no, mine are this: risk, regret, and results. Pick one. Which do you want?
Right. If you're smart, obviously
results.
and he's saying results.
But if you take on a risk, it comes with regret at no extra charge. So you get lucky. You get more. 2 for 1.
Right.
And you'll never forget it. My wife has her hair cut by a gentleman downtown because her hair is short and it's really difficult to do it perfectly. He got married, and then she was talking to him after the wedding. Oh, you got married? Yeah, we had it last summer. It's like, okay, well, thanks for not keeping us in mind, but whatever. So here's the conversation. They were out shopping for the dress. And he says to the bride-to-be, his fiance, you're going to get the dress today here, or we're going to H&M. But you're getting the dress today.
You can't do that.
Okay, you know that. I know that. He learned that. So 8 months later, Shirley's in the chair getting her hair cut, and she says to him, so how was the wedding? And he says, I got to ask you something, because my wife's very much aware of what I'm doing. He says, when is she ever going to shut up about the dress?
Never.
And Shirley says, never.
Never.
And she says, and you know what's worse? In 30 years, when your kids are getting married, guess what's going to come up? He's like, really? So we have our phrase, don't mess with the dress.
Right.
So,
oh my gosh, seriously.
So the real challenge here is not so much of a budget, and everybody does this backwards. And I had a couple gentlemen today. It was for 2 gentlemen having a wedding in the summertime here. Their budget is $5,000 for 100 people. And they want to put together an entire wedding for $5,000. I have another. Well, that's the first problem. They don't have a venue. Now,
I'm going to say you're going to have it in your backyard.
Well, I had a couple here a couple weeks ago. Their budget was $10,000 for 50 people, and we got it to work, but not $5,000 for 100. I said, you can't even go to a moderate restaurant and have dinner and a drink for $50.
No.
So that's your $5,000 gone. You haven't done anything. You haven't got an officiant. You haven't got your suits. You haven't got the music. You haven't done nothing. They hung up the phone.
Oh.
Well, I'm sorry. If you don't want the truth, then Google it and see what you get.
And I feel bad for them.
I felt horrible.
I mean, understanding that people have budgetary constraints and they want to get married, but there is a financial truth, unfortunately, that stress you now or stress you later, right?
Yes. And the thing is, with the risk of it all falling apart and not being the wedding you wanted, brings with it the regret, and you'll never live it down. And every wedding they go to as a guest, oh, this was so much better than ours. Ours sucked. I mean, you'll never escape the devil.
Right.
So the way we do it is differently. We have a process where we actually study, believe it or not, that there are 350 dates in a year you should not pick for your wedding.
What? How many days are there in a year?
365.
So you only get 15 days that you should get married?
No, for your wedding. I didn't say
Oh,
the girl sitting next to you or the guy behind you. I'm talking about you as an
okay.
individual person. There are only 15 dates that you should be even considering for your wedding. Now,
And
here's a fun, that's crazy.
that is crazy.
Yes, but the analytics we do, the engineering we put into studying the impact so we get the results is such that you get what you wanted. Now, my wedding was on a Tuesday. What a goofy day of the week.
Totally.
Well, yeah, but it was on the date we wanted. And the next year it was a Monday. And the next year it was a Sunday. And the next year our anniversary was on a Saturday. Like I care to pay a premium for Saturday only to find out next year it's a Friday anyway.
But your anniversary isn't the same as the wedding day.
It is. The anniversary is the same date.
Date, but the day that you have the party.
Who cares? It changes every year because there's 365 does not go into 7. It doesn't ever replicate. And then you get leap year, so it's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 years before it's a Saturday again. So why did you kill yourself to have a premium Saturday wedding that you couldn't afford when your first anniversary was on a Friday and your second was on a Thursday?
So that all the people could come on a
Well,
Saturday.
yeah, but hang on a second. They didn't all show up anyway. If they want to be there, they will get there. If they don't want to get there, they're not trying hard enough. Why do you want to have them there? I mean, let's face it. At the end of the day, and this leads to the next funny thing. I've asked a bride this one day. I said, so when's your wedding? She says, oh, July the 8th. I said, okay, cool. We're available. I said to her, did you pick the date? She says, oh, yeah. I said, really? You went into the banquet hall and said to them, I want October the 8th. Well, she says, well, no, we wanted the 17th, but they were booked, so we took the 8th. I said, well, then you didn't pick it. They did.
Right.
Light bulb.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't even pick their own date. Therefore, they didn't pick the next 50 anniversaries. Now, I'm on this because it matters so much. Okay, it matters so much. I have a friend getting married in a little bit, and they picked the mother's birthday as their wedding date of the bride. The bride's mother's birthday.
Okay. Is
Okay,
that
well,
bad or good?
Well, I think it's terrible, and I'm going to tell you why and share this with your visitors. The couple is 60 years of age. The mother's 85 plus. The wedding date is on her 85th birthday.
Oh, that's
Skip
not
ahead
very nice.
5 years. Mom would have been 90 today. Happy anniversary. You see,
Right.
the conflict is they picked a date that's significant to someone else. And when that scenario goes sideways, it impacts and brings regret to the very date of their own wedding.
Well, I also think of it even from a different perspective. It's like you have to share your day with somebody.
Oh, we don't want to talk about why there's 350 dates in a year you don't want to pick because you're going to be sharing with 150 people. And here's where it goes. You take a weak enough DJ company, and this is why I do this. It's so much fun. We could be on this the whole time. Hey, man, my wife's birthday's tomorrow. Can you make an announcement? And it's like, hey, everybody, it's, Johnny's wife's birthday tomorrow. Let's sing happy birthday. And this goes on at the wedding. And then someone else says, well, my wife's birthday's next week and my anniversary's last week. And next thing you know, you got a lineup of people and the wrong DJ will take and make all these announcements. And the bride comes over and goes, what are you doing with all of that at my wedding?
Right.
So sharing, as much as I think they need to, honestly, I tell my brides, you deserve to be greedy once. And you get to have your wedding without the conflict of all your guests' special days, that crowd into and take away the limelight. Now, it may not be a big deal to some people, but to some people it is.
Well, even if they don't admit that it is, in some ways, even the most chilled out people, it's
In
your
the
day.
background, it niddles
Right.
away. And then one day one day that thing surfaces, and the
Right.
risk you took becomes the regret you'll never forget.
And I'm born I think I thought of it first because I'm born in December. I'm like, you get the combo Christmas
Yep.
party, birthday party. I'm like, thanks for nothing.
And one of the worst dates is New Year's Eve, because when does it stop being a wedding and start being the countdown? And people
Right?
come pre-lubricated to a New Year's Eve wedding. So that brings us to bad behavior and problems. And so we have studied the wedding industry at an analytic level that honestly astonishes myself. And my other business matrix. We use the matrix process to study these things, to come up with the metrics, to build recommendations based on experience. And having seen it for 40 years, going to the wedding and seeing the results of their planning is why we created the workshop called the Wedding Planning Strategy Session.
That rolls off the tongue.
It is, and we call it WPSS because it's faster, but yes.
Wedding planning. And do you do this
Strategy session.
one-on-one or do you do
I
it as
do
a
it
group?
one couple at a time. I do it
Okay.
as a group. I have a group option, okay, because it's great. I mean, it works. But what we really love to do is get into it with a couple individually. And COVID has allowed for that. And interestingly, because we couldn't do large groups, and I didn't get it organized in Zoom just by choice because it's so intense, I decided to do it 1-on-2. Well, that's like 1-on-1 couple.
Right.
And I had a couple here, and their wedding is in 2023. They were so stressed about the budget. They were freaking out in February when I met them at the bridal show. And
And
the
that's
guy
over a
says,
year away.
I know it is. It's a year and a half, almost 2 years a year and a half. And he said, you scared the poop out of us. He says, I am freaking out. I says, well, I'm sorry about that. He said, no, it was a good poop. so they
Okay.
came here and we sat them down and walked them through the process. And I showed them the exposure of the date they've picked. Now they picked a date. It's a good date. Okay. They picked a date that is the same day that they met. And it was the same date that they got engaged on. So they picked the same date for all three occurrences. So it's special.
Right.
I think she's getting ripped off for a gift, but hey, whatever. So they have a date. Now I showed them the exposure. Here's what's going to happen if you have these people because of all their significant dates, birthdays, anniversary, all of that. Their budget was $15,000 and the wedding was going to cost $45,000.
Oh, no wonder they were stressed out.
Yes. So when I got done, on the screen that you can see behind me, I hit the button and it brought up the total of what we discussed in 2 hours. $30,000 in savings.
Oh, I thought you I thought you were gonna say $30,000 for the I'm like, that's a lot of money still. Savings.
Yep. I showed them things that will have zero to no impact, if not a negative impact. I will show them things they don't need, things they clearly can't afford, that don't add value, that no one will notice or appreciate. And it's that significant. So we are excited to offer this to anyone that's planning a wedding. And it doesn't even have to be a wedding. It could be a birthday, a Christmas party. An event has pretty much the same basic ingredients.
Right.
In terms of most of the vendor categories, weddings are the biggest because of the emotional containment. That's not quite as exciting as a Christmas party, but it's certainly worth doing right.
I always made a comment that, a wedding, and that's not to detract from weddings at all, but a wedding, there was always a, 20% markup just because you put the word wedding on it for pretty much all the things.
That's a good point. And I've had that question. I've had brides come to me and say, well, when we walked into the banquet hall, as soon as they told them it was for a wedding, they pulled out a different price list. So our phrase in our world is we charge for the service, not the season.
Right.
So whether you're having a wedding in July or a wedding in November, whether you're having a wedding or a Christmas party or a barbecue, I charge for what I do, not what you're having, because I don't think it's fair.
And most celebrations have the majority of the same elements, right?
Well,
except for the wedding, the ceremony.
Weddings have a few extra things that we can do, but some of them are just skill and effort. They don't have a cost in dollars. Like I charge you, $5 a speech. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So we try to be more reasonable that way because we understand how the couple, what they're going through. So the point of the strategy session is to show them how to pick the perfect wedding date for their wedding. There's 137 things on my list of what to look for when choosing a venue. Can you imagine?
Just the venue.
Yeah. Venue, we call it venue considerations. But think about it. You're having a wedding for between 100 and 125 people. Okay, that's your plan. And you go to this really cute little place that's beautiful. It's got an old water wheel and it's scenic and it's rustic and you love it, but their capacity is 100. And you can't book there because you're having more. So you go book somewhere that's a 4 walls and a ceiling, cold commercial space. You spend a fortune making it ugly, making it not ugly. Then you get your RSVPs back and 90 people are coming.
Right.
And you could have had the other place. You cancel, you lose your deposit if they're even available. And so all of a sudden, everything goes up in the air. I call it the jet blender without the lid.
Right.
Right. And now you can't fix it. And so we see the problems that people have because they don't do it in the right order.
And that's the regret right there.
There it is.
Could have had the water wheel.
There you go. You could have had the water wheel. You could have had that beautiful backdrop for your pictures. Instead, you got the 401.
Right.
And we look at every single minute from the time the bride wakes up in the morning until it's long past bedtime, at every minute of the day, and analyze risk and regret. And we have the experience to offer suggestions that are absolutely mind-boggling. And here's one that's really that got me going. If you get one of those books that the magazines at the grocery stores or wherever you go for magazines, and it's got a wedding planning checklist.
Oh yes.
Okay, the bridal books, there's a checklist in there, and they say 12 months before your wedding you do these things, and 9 months and 6 months and blah blah blah. There's a $15,000 mistake in the checklist.
What?
Yeah. There's a $15,000 mistake in the checklist. So have a nice day planning your wedding the way they tell you.
Are you going to let the magazines know that, or are you just going to keep that to yourself?
Oh, that's my secret sauce. But in our session, I have the books right here. I pull it open and I show the bride and I say, "Do you see the problem?" And she goes, "Nope." I said, I point to it. She goes, "Oh my gosh." I said, "That's why you're sitting here with me." And they are astonished at what we know and how happy we are to share it.
So tell me, the couple that you saved them, how dialed down was their stress after you just put up on your big screen?
They went from freaking out to wanting to hire us to DJ and officiate their wedding.
Right.
Now, that's how excited they are. They're now excited about having their wedding, not freaking out for the next 18 months. How are they going to ever pay for this thing?
Right. Which shifts the whole energy behind.
And the relationship is healthier. They now can afford the wedding. They're not getting a second job. They're never home. You can imagine what it would have taken to generate 3 times the money for an event that you said it doesn't take any longer. It's one day.
One day to determine whether you enter the next day happy or already freaking out because you can't enjoy your honeymoon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's heartbreaking for us when a couple doesn't take our advice. And I'm not one of those told you so kind of guys. I already know the universe will do that for them. Right. But it bothers me when I try to help somebody like these 2 guys that hung up because they didn't want to hear the fact that $5,000 and 100 people, you're not going to have a sit down catered meal because that's going to cost you 10 right there. And they didn't want to listen. I said, I can help you. It's not a problem to help you, but you have to do it the right way. And they hung up. So I texted them. I want to send you an email to give you some benefit of what we talked about. We're going to be fine on our own. No, you're not. And then we bring in what detach from the outcome, right? You can't help everybody.
Right.
And if they don't want the help, what are you going to do? I can't stress over because I got to take the next caller and help her or him or whomever. So that's what I do.
And some people, like, no matter, it's true of everything in life. I mean, I coach people. When I'm coaching people, if I point out something to them that they don't want to see, I can't help that. It's like,
No,
that's not my job isn't to fix you, but it would be unfair of me not to tell you something that I see, right?
yep,
Not to say this is what I see, and doing it in a kind way. And yes, and I always quote my anatomy teacher because he was quite brilliant in this. Well, he was very good anatomy teacher, but he saw me trying to do a lot of things, and he said, "You are the lighthouse, not the lifeboat." So
I love it.
turn on the light for people, but don't pile them into your raft. They won't all fit.
Yeah,
You can't help them. They have to help
yeah.
themselves. And if people, like, I was having a conversation earlier with a coach who we were talking about, take responsibility for your own happiness, um, but also recognize when you need help,
I
right?
hope,
So
that's the message, right? And here's one I'll share with you that really is kind of a real light bulb moment for some of our couples. I say to them, and I'm going to talk about the DJ business here. An interesting statistic was created. There was a survey done in 2018, I think it was, or 17 in the US, but it's a global survey. 85% of couples surveyed after their wedding admitted that they underinvested in the DJ.
wow,
That means 85% of the parties and the whole emotional part of a wedding was left to someone who's not able to cut it.
right,
The next survey they did, they ranked the cost of wedding vendors. Food and beverage was number one, no kidding. The ring, dress, flowers, photography rounded out the top five. The DJ didn't even make the cut as expensive. But the next column of the survey says most remembered. Food went all the way to number 5 at 8%. And the DJ was number 1 at 80%. The DJ can make 10 times the impact of the food because
it's
nobody
true,
cares what they ate. No disrespecting to catering people. I know the work, there's no disrespect there. But when people have a great meal and then they have a lousy evening for 5 hours, there's nothing that the banquet hall can do. They're not going to keep serving food, it's too expensive.
right,
So what are they going to do? The answer is, why don't you partner with a really great DJ company in your area so you know the consistency of their delivery so you look good, because you're going to be sticking up out of the ground as a banquet hall. And here's the conversation. Oh, we went there for a wedding. It was terrible. And the people in the back seat go, oh, wow, really? Because the DJ screwed it up, but they never finished the sentence.
right,
So the
yeah.
banquet hall is implicated whether they like it or not. And we're here to help banquet halls create a better day.
Well, and it's true. The dinner is such a small part of the whole party,
Yeah, but it's
right?
also 50% of the entire wedding budget.
It is. But I mean, I've been to a lot of corporate dinners. I don't really remember what I ate at most corporate dinners.
Do you remember if you had a good time?
I remember the corporate dinners that had and good entertainment.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So
And that's
I'm on it with you. I'm like, yeah, if you're not having fun, doesn't matter how good the food is in front of you,
but
right?
the sad part of the couple, the $9,000 screw up story, is what is she going to do when all her guests are leaving? Her wedding
Right?
is falling apart at her knees and she can't even fix it. You can't even go up to the DJ and say, here's $500 that I thought I was saving by booking a cheaper DJ. Can you please fix your equipment? Can you please get your stuff together? Because he doesn't have the skill or the aspiration. Now, to
And I
put it
guess,
in,
I mean, to some extent, they trust the if I was hiring a venue and they say we recommend this DJ, then you think the venue would know, but you don't
yes, but it's
realize.
all based on kickbacks, and that's the problem. So here's what I
And that's
tell
what
the
you don't
couples.
realize.
Yes, you're trusting the Google of the world or whatever you want to call this thing, but everything they tell you is true. What's true is it's all based on commissions. So what you should do is your due diligence and say, I want to go talk to the DJ. I need to know what I'm doing. I need to ask questions and see what they say. And I'm going to bring up another thing that I think is really fun. What I'm just going to ask you because I don't know you that well, but I'm certainly going to want to. What do you know about horse racing?
I know they run around the track.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do, because you're in Toronto with me. We're going to go out tomorrow night to a horse racing track near me, and we're going to watch the horses, and then we're going to go, I've got us invited already, we're going to go to a cocktail party with all the horsey people. How much are
Okay.
you going to chime into the conversation amongst the horse owners? What do you know about this? Nothing.
I like the brown one.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't know anything either about that subject. So guess what? People don't talk about that which they do not know.
Right.
So when you call a wedding vendor and you ask a few questions, the next thing they should do is shut up and let the vendor tell you. Because if they don't broach the subject, it's because they don't have it. In the DJ world, if they don't have a license, which is federal copyright, if they don't have insurance, on-site backup equipment, if they don't have a written agreement, if they don't have, I've got a list of 40 features, advantages, and benefits that we offer, and we can stand behind every one of them. Nobody can touch this list. Nobody. And the result is, when you compare me to anybody else, they don't come up to the number of dots. Like when you're buying a car, you get a brochure with dots, right? 10 dots for the base model, 15 for the intermediate, and the luxury car has 20 dots. Well,
I got a
40
car
dots.
obviously in a long time. I
Okay,
don't know.
but my
Dots?
point is, the different number of dots is the number of features, and that's why the cars are more expensive.
Right.
So, not getting into price, but the point is, I have 40 dots. So when you compare our company to another company, what's missing? And the answer is, you are taking on the risk of hiring someone where there's things missing, where they didn't talk about what they don't know, or they don't want to talk about it because it's icky, and you didn't know enough to ask. And this is a recipe for disaster. And given that it carries 80% of the whole wedding, it's an important conversation to have with any entertainment service that you're providing.
Well, and I mean, at the end of the day, you're getting married because you want to declare and have a really awesome celebration that you're going to spend time with this person.
Yep.
And if you don't have your awesome celebration, or you're freaking out about having a celebration, why are you doing it?
Well, here's the thing. This is where people get a differentiation problem. Getting married requires 5 people. That's why COVID survived. The officiant, the bride, the groom, and 2 witnesses.
Right. Okay.
Having a wedding is another issue.
Oh, right.
Because
Okay.
that brings in the party and the dress. You could go with a tracksuit and get married. So a marriage and a wedding are 2 different things. The other thing I mentioned at the top of the hour is we plan a wedding in one day.
Right.
Planning is not booking. People think because they booked a hall, they're planning a wedding. Because I booked a photographer, I'm planning a wedding. No, you haven't planned it at all, because you don't know how many people are coming. You don't know if you got the right date. You don't have a clue what it's going to cost you, and you're planning. That's like buying a bunch of lumber, bringing it home and saying, let's build a deck. How big? I don't know. We got a bunch of wood. Well, maybe we should have planned it first and got the right amount of wood if you have a permit to build a deck in the first place.
Now I think I understand what you were saying.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay.
So planning is different than hiring. We
Right.
plan in one day.
And
Then
then you go to work.
Then you go to work because you know exactly what the other end looks like. Otherwise, you get halfway into a pipe you cannot afford to dig your way out of.
That's a good perspective of many things in life.
That's my point on your show, is that this applies globally to every aspect of life, which is why I'm so excited about it, because I use this process for everything I do. Everything is done within this, what we call the matrix framework of how I think and how we share with our people the way to go about planning without actually spending the money at all. What if you discover, for example, you decide you want to build a deck, okay? Or let's say bigger, you want to put a pool in your backyard. And you get all these guys and you hire the contractor and you pay the deposit and they're all set to come and dig up your backyard. And then you find out you can't have a pool because it takes up too much of your lot for zoning or this or that, or it's too close to a tree, or you're going to cut the roots and lose the tree. And all of a sudden you can't get a building permit. Well, now you can't have a pool. You could have found all that out with one phone call.
Right.
So I think that couples should benefit from the idea that if you plan it properly, you know what it's going to cost. then you're all excited for the right reasons, not freaking out for the wrong reasons. And friendships have been fractured from this.
Oh,
I'll
for
tell you an
sure.
example. I had a bride and groom once where the maid of honor, during the time of the wedding, became pregnant. That's because she was already married. She's on with her life. Closer to the wedding, the bride said, I don't want the fat person standing next to me. And she removed the maid of honor from the wedding.
Ew.
Ooh. That ruined the friendship of 20 years.
No kidding.
And believe it or not, 2 years later, the bride was herself pregnant. So really, call it nature. Give me a break. How in the heck did that not get factored in? But it sure went sideways. So
I don't even know what to say to that. Like, I'm just like,
I can't tell you.
my brain is fused.
Yeah. And so our experience is so vast. And the way I code what I've learned, and the way this matrix lets me tabulate and structure information, allows me to create incredible light bulb moments, so that my clients and people that contact me don't get themselves into a problem they can't solve, and no amount of money can fix it. That's the biggest heartache, is you can't even fix it with the money that you didn't have in the first place, but somehow now you think you can fix it.
All you got to do is
Oh,
think ahead a little bit, right?
well, I think
Well,
a lot, actually. And the problem
ahead a
is
lot.
that's where it becomes a little overwhelming for couples, because they don't know
Right.
what they don't know. And that's not a disrespect. I don't know about heart surgery, so I hired the pros. I
Right.
didn't shingle my roof. I hired the pros. I know what to do enough to understand it, but I don't want to do it. And the final point I want to make for you. I asked the bride one day, so if at your wedding the DJ screws it up royally, like it's just a disaster, whose fault is that? And she said, well, it's the DJ's fault. And then I said to her, who hired him? Oh,
Oh, damn
yeah.
it. Damn
So,
it.
yeah, you right? And she
Right.
says, okay, and I'm not trying to blame her. I wanted to put her in a perspective of hold up a mirror. You're going to be responsible for all of the money, all of the choices, all the decisions, what you did, what you didn't do. Was it on purpose? Was it a boo-boo? No matter what it is, that's your decision tree. And now you better get some help from someone who can help you. And interestingly, my wedding planning service is in no way connected obligatorily to you hiring me as your officiant or your DJ,
Right.
because it applies across the globe. Because frankly, it's common sense, but it's not so common.
Right.
But getting the right understanding of the scope of the project, the money that's involved, what's it going to take to do the job? It'd be like running out of pipe halfway through your house, and now that you can't turn the water on because all you can do is fill the basement. You got to have enough pipe to connect the ends. Otherwise, you're going to have a mess. And it's funny. I mean, I got hundreds of these funny, silly
I know.
things.
It's just like my brain was trying to picture it.
But when you can picture it, you'll never unsee it.
Right.
And to me, the clarity, the offer here is to say, I would love to help couples have a better wedding that they cherish. And here's my final story that I think is just so incredible. I went to high school with a fellow, and I met him again at university and realized, I know you. He said, yeah, we went. Oh, really? I remember you sort of, but not really, really. So we got to be really good friends. And I did his wedding in 1983. Then I did his brother's wedding. Then I did his sister's wedding. Skip ahead to 2010. I did a curling banquet for him and his wife go curling, at which was his oldest of his 3 daughters with her boyfriend. 2010. 2014, I did her wedding. 2016, he got on the social committee for a very big company to do a 600-person Christmas party at the Royal York Hotel in Toronto. He got on the committee because he wanted to be the one who gets to pick the DJ. And he told the committee, I'm getting the DJ that did my wedding. And he told them the story I just told you. And 900 people showed up to see what is all this about. So
the man
that's,
can spin a tune.
well, we can entertain, we can make it fun. And at the end of the day, that's almost 37-year legacy.
Right?
So the magic is in creating these moments. And most weddings have 8 highlights: grand entrance, first dance, bouquet, garter, parent dances, last dance, stuff like that. 8. Our
Right.
weddings have over 38.
Wow, that's a lot of
38.
moments.
It is. And as a result, you get incredible pictures to prove that you now have the thing that created the memory. And I'm all about helping the photographer get better pictures. So I am there to service everyone's best interest to create a wedding beyond anything else. And we call it E7, the end-to-end, emotionally engaging, epic event experience, AKA your wedding. And as you can tell, I have fun doing this every day
Oh
of the
my
week.
gosh. I'm like E7. But seriously, I mean, okay, I'll just put it out there. I've been married a couple of times.
Okay.
And it is a stressful situation, and you want it to be a super fun time where you can just show up and be relaxed and have your best day. And if you could even do half of what you say, which I know you can actually do all of what you say,
Absolutely.
then I just imagine actually just cutting through all of that stress and anxiety and being able to enjoy yourself. That
Well,
would be
that, to me,
amazing.
that's the goal. And we've had many weddings delayed a year because of COVID. We have one more in September that finishes off all of that carry forward. But
Right.
on our website in the corner, there's a testimonial from a bride and her mom. The reason the groom's not there is it rained, he slipped in the mud and fell and got all covered in mud. So he didn't want to go on camera. But she said to me on the testimonial, and your guests can find it under our DJ tab. She said to me that I painted a picture and I created a better wedding than she could have ever even imagined was possible. Now, interestingly, she did not say I'm the world's best DJ. That's not
That's
what I
okay.
was there to do. I'm
No.
there to DJ the wedding, but I'm also there to MC it, to run the music, the sound, the lighting, to coordinate it, to officiate it, to do as much as I can. I wear 14 hats at a wedding because the more I do, the better it turns out because I have the synergy and the systems in place to do it. But what she said, I created a better wedding.
Right.
It's not about how great the DJ is in isolation. It's not how great the cake was in isolation. It's how was the entire event.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that is our result.
Amazing.
So,
So you want to dial your stress down.
yeah,
Now you know what to do because all of your stuff is in the show notes, in the
thank
comments.
you.
They will be able to find you. And I like the fact that they can actually talk to you about planning it without having to actually be in the GTA,
No, absolutely
right?
not. It's got nothing to do with geography. It has to do with data that I've drilled into and studied and created. What I am honestly so excited about as a universal event planning and even life planning. I use this same philosophy to build and renovate my own home.
So
Because-
maybe everybody should just take your planning thing just so that they can, plan the major things in their lives.
Well, that's what the Matrix company that we should have another chat about is all about, is how do you create a streamlined solution to any problem. And I've used this matrix since 1984. So I've been doing that a long time. And I used it to build the DJ business. So I'm telling you, it works so incredibly well that I am working with the group that you and I belong to get that thing put together because it is so helpful to people. It just blows my mind what I do with it every single day. And I'm excited to help anyone that's listening with an event that they're planning. Weddings obviously are a big one, but birthdays, anniversaries, family reunions, there's so much logistics that we can dial out all the drama and just show you the facts. And when the facts scream, it's easy to accept reality. It's when you get hit in the bum by it and didn't see it coming, that's when it hurts.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
lovely.
Amazing.
Oh,
Okay, I'm gonna stick a link for your matrix thing in there too,
okay.
if we get that things. But
Okay.
um, thank you.
Thank you. My
Thank
goodness.
you. I mean, you have so many stories. I know I've talked to you before. We could go on forever, but respecting your time, because I know there's something else coming up.
No, I'm good for a bit. If you want to keep going, like I
No,
said,
we're good.
but we're good.
We got stuff to do. We got to go.
I put the little link in there for you for Matrix.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I will make sure that goes up. So,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing and being this most organized person that I've ever met. And and for sure, my friends, click the links. Even if you just want to have a check-in with Ron, like just see, do you think this would be a good approach? Like give him a call, right?
Absolutely.
And he will tell you yes or no whether it will work for you.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's the only goal, is to help people have a more fun life, a better marriage, a better wedding, a launch point that doesn't put them into debt and the stress and the health and the all the emotional trauma and the domino effect that has on all the relationships around them. And it's just, the world just needs to be a happier place. And since weddings are such a big launch point for the life that joins a family or fractures two families, which is now hugely bad,
Right.
we just want to make a difference. And so thank you for the privilege of being here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this.
Awesome. Those were perfect closing words, right? So thank you, my friend. Thank you,
Okay.
my friends. Take good care, and we will see you next time.